Alec Peirce at the ranch with a great idea. I think it's a great idea. Sorry, Kev. It has certainly saved us a lot of aggravation over the years. First of all, we have several wells on our property. We have a well that supplies the house with water. It's a 160-foot drilled well, submersible pump, usual setup. Pumps water into the house. Works great. We don't use that water for anything else. We also have this dug well. I dug this well. It's 45 feet deep, has about 36, 37 feet of water in it. And when I dug this well, which I dug for the windmill, you've seen the picture of the windmill. When I dug this well, I had enough foresight to think about putting in concrete tile, 36-inch concrete tile, goes down 45 some odd feet, down about 6 feet. There's a pitless adapter, basically a hole in the wall, and there's a pipe that goes from that hole to a hydrant, one here at the garage and another one down at the barn for the horses. Straightforward. Now, here's the trick. How do we get the water out of this well into that pipe under pressure? Well, it's really simple. We have a submersible pump down there. Submersible pump is about 25 feet down. You don't want the submersible pump sitting at the very bottom because you'd be picking up debris, mud, possibly sand and so on. So it's about 25 feet down. And that submersible pump comes up on a black plastic line, and it ends in this. This is the inside of the pitless adapter right here. The plastic pipe, I can see it, comes up from the submersible pump and ends here at this pitless adapter. Now this is the cable. This is the wire that runs down to the submersible pump down below. This is it right here. Okay, this is the live, not live right now, hydro line coming from the switch in the garage, in the barn. Okay, so let's check and make sure we're clear. I got a submersible pump, a 1-inch water pipe coming up to this half with the pitless adapter. So now all I have to do is put this half into that half, and when I connect these wires together, it pumps water. Just that simple. Okay, here's the problem I had. Number one, I needed to control it somehow. Now the water line that runs from here to the garage and then into the barn is 5 feet underground. That's how far down it has to be sure we don't get it frozen here in Ontario. So there's no place to put a pressure switch. You have to have a pressure switch. The pressure switch, when the submersible pump comes on, it just keeps pumping. Pressure builds up and up and up to 200 psi. We only want 60. So you have to put a pressure switch on this device to shut off the pump when it reaches 60 psi. And then as the pressure drops, because you're using water, the pressure drops down to 30, the switch turns it on again, and the pump comes on and starts pumping. So it has to have a pressure switch, no problem. And you have to have a pressure gauge, because you can't tell when it's 60 or it's 30, so you can't adjust the switch unless you have a gauge. So you have to have a pressure gauge on it. That's all pretty easy too. We've had that running for several years. The other problem is this. The pump is a 1/2 horsepower pump. It draws a lot of current. So the little contacts on the pressure switch are small. And as they're trying to control off and on, the pump, that 1/2 horsepower pump, they burn out pretty quickly. So the only thing that we can do is to put in a pressure tank. If you're familiar at all with water systems, you put in a pressure tank. And the pressure tank is simply a tank. It looks kind of like this. That's it. This is a small one. You can get them bigger. In the house we have one about this big. The size really isn't critical. But what does the pressure tank do? Well, very simply, this pressure tank has a rubber bladder inside, separating the top from the bottom. And there's a Schrader valve on top, a bicycle Schrader valve, so you can put air pressure in. So you put air pressure into the top, and that puts pressure on the bladder, pushes the bladder down. Now that's connected to the pipe. So as the pump turns on, water comes up, and water goes into the bottom of the pressure tank. And pressure builds up and pushes that bladder back up like so. And it holds a certain amount of water in there. In this particular case, 5 gallons of water. Now, when you turn on a tap, the pump doesn't start. The pump is shut off at 60 psi. Here's the gauge. It's shut off at 60 psi. So you turn on the tap and the water flows. Where's it coming from? It's coming from here. the pump hasn't started yet. And as that water goes down and down and down and down, finally, eventually, it drops far enough down that the pressure drops to 30 psi and the pump kicks in. The pump kicks in and it runs for a little while, builds the pressure back up to 60, fills the pressure tank back up, and of course it's feeding your hose as well. And then it stops running. And it waits for a little while until that water is all used up. And then it fills it back up again. The point is this: if you don't have a pressure tank, when you open the water tap, that pressure switch is going click, 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 because it's 60, 30, 60, 30, 60, 30, like that. The water's going out as fast as it's going in, and you burn that switch out in no time. With a pressure tank, it clicks on and off. On and off. So it doesn't come on nearly as much, and the switch lasts much, much longer. With a pressure tank, even a small one like this, that switch will last for a couple of years. Without it, it could burn out in a few months. So that's what we've done. How did I hook it up? Well, it's really very simple. Down there, below the pitless adapter, I simply put a T. And I came out. The pitless adapter is 1 inch, so this piece of pipe is 1 inch. I reduced it to 3/4, then I reduced it to half. So this is a 1/2 inch piece of pipe. You don't have to have a big pipe. You're not going to have water flow through here. At the very top of that pipe, up near the top of the well, I have my pressure switch where these wires will connect. Set for 60 on, 60 off, 30 on. So here's the pressure switch. And right beside it I have the pressure gauge. This is a pressure gauge, so I can look at it and say, yep, that's set right for 60 and down to 30. Yep, that's set right, so I can read the pressure. And then all I did was I just tapped in to that pipe right here, put this piece of pipe out into the bottom of my pressure tank. Fasten the pressure tank solidly with a band strap to this piece of pipe, and there's the whole system. All we have to do now is literally use our submersible pump puller. If you saw my earlier video on how to pull a submersible pump, you know about my submersible pump puller. And we're going to take the submersible pump puller, put it into the pitless adapter, lift it up, take that board out, which is holding it all, lower it down in, set it into the pitless adapter, hook up the wires, and start pumping water. Just as simple. So we're going to do that right now. Diane and I are going to set this down in there because I want to make sure this is all working properly.
I'm ready.
Let's get this system in there. Lift and lower it down slowly. Grab the T-handle up there. There it is. And lower it down in like that. And right into the, like.
Oh, there's too much. Oh, there.
There it is.
Have it.
Done. Just that easy. Just that easy. Take out the pump puller, and our submersible pump is installed. The water comes up from the submersible pump to the pitless, goes through the wall over to the hydrant, and then pressure comes up to work the pressure switch to make the pressure gauge register, and water goes into the pressure tank here to keep the whole thing running smoothly. So I'm going to put this together, wire up the switch. When it takes a few minutes, and we can turn it on, see if it works. And now the pressure is going to go a bit down. And when it gets down to 25, they come back together and go back up. See? Back together, pressure gauge is going to start climbing. The thing I need to do is slightly adjust that gauge. The pressure gauge is there, you can see what the settings are. 20, 40, 60. That should do it now. That should do it. Now I'll just cover this up to protect it. And I have this plastic thing that I put over top of that to keep the whole thing from condensation and moisture. It's not much, but it makes a difference, just like that. There you go. Pressure system. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, we talked about the hydrant system. So this water goes underground and stays underground, never comes up to freeze. Works well. At 30. There we go, going back up. That's perfect. Yep. Alec Peirce at the ranch. water system. See you guys.